Hi guys, this is just a short demo of RTIK, which is an inverse kinematic system for Unreal Engine. Unreal currently has a few different options for inverse kinematics. However, I was not really satisfied with them, and I think there's a lot of room for a new system. I've been working on kind of a system that is intended to be a little bit easier to use than like just the raw like two-bone IK and stuff that's included with Unreal, but also a little bit lower level than something like Kinema. Um, so I guess, this is not really intended to be like a tutorial video or really in-depth about the tech, but this is just a really short demo. So let me just start off by showing you kind of what this system can do. So this is a character who has had IK applied to the feet, so obviously it's not going to do that much on flat ground, but once we start going onto these stairs, you can see that he'll IK his legs onto the stairs. And it looks pretty good in my opinion. You do get a little bit of clipping from the toes because this animation is really fast and the IK can't quite keep up without snapping. But you generally get very nice poses from the feet on even pretty uneven surfaces like this. So it can handle really pretty large gaps and looks good. And it shouldn't cause any snapping. It shouldn't cause anything like the knee reversing or anything like that. You do have to be a little bit careful with your animations. This animation has a really, really long, like, the back leg goes very far back, which is like impossible to do when you're going downstairs. So yeah, it'll look a little bit weird for this particular animation. Other stuff that it does on the legs, well, it handles jumping nicely for one thing. That's kind of cool. But it handles slopes well, and then it also handles foot rotation. So you'll see that the feet will rotate to match the slope of the floor. And you can handle fairly steep slopes like that. This one is too steep to walk up, so it's not going to actually handle that one. It can handle, uneven surfaces pretty well. So, for example, these weird spheres, you can stand on top of them, and it'll do, pretty good. You do get a little bit of clipping on the feet there. You can put only one foot on a sphere. You can step over gaps if you get the right pose, so that's nice. And just as far as the limits of how far the step down goes, it's pretty far. It's just going to be dependent. This is a parameter that you can set, so it's kind of up to you when you're tuning the system to figure out how far you want the step down height to be. So I'm going to walk back over those gold balls over here, and so in addition to leg IK, this system also supports upper body RK at the same time, or not at the same time, should you choose to disable leg IK. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that on this guy. So this guy's character blueprint has been set up to talk to his anim BP and tell him to turn on IK on the hand, so I'm going to do the left hand only to start off, and you can see he's going to reach out and try to grab this gold ball if it's in reach. So the arm IK will move, it'll both repose the arm and the torso, so he'll actually get a nice torso rotation to try to reach whatever it is. Currently there are not range of motion constraints implemented for arm IK, so if you really want to IK him onto something that's like behind his back, you will get a weird motion there. However, that's something I may work on if there's interest, and the system does support range of motion constraints should you choose to write them, which is an improvement over the existing IK solvers. And then in addition to that, you can actually do both arms at once, which is cool. So you can do a full body thing, and he'll try to rotate his torso in the best way possible in order to reach both targets. The torso rotation is restricted to the upper body only right now, so you're not going to get any movement of the legs in order to improve the quality of this bending over motion. And of course, should you really, really want to, you can, move around while doing this, but, obviously it's pretty easy to get yourself in a situation where there's absolutely no way that this character can reach, and it's going to look a little weird, so I'm going to stop doing it. As far as what this looks like from a user standpoint, setting it up, so right now it's a system of basically anim nodes that you're going to be provided with. So this system is intended to be really modular. basically, my philosophy in designing this was to have these sort of descriptive data structures that you could use so that you have a data-oriented approach and you can sort of describe your chains, and then your nodes are the individual operations that you're going to do on those chains. And it's intended to be kind of low level, at least as it is now. And then I'm working now on actually providing some higher level nodes that are really just like, humanoid IK, bam, snap it in, and you have a solution for humanoids. Then you would drop down to a system that's a more complex anim graph like this. If you had kind of a custom system that you needed to work with. But just to give you a really, really quick, again, this is not a tutorial, but an idea of how this is working. So this IK system is split up into steps. So first you're going to do a trace. So this is something that you do explicitly. It's not included in the anim nodes because tracing is actually quite expensive. So the idea behind these trace nodes is that you do them first. That queries and finds out where the floor is relative to the character, and then you save that data for use in later nodes. The first thing is the biped hip adjustment. So what this does is it moves the hips so that the legs are close enough to actually reach the ground. And then these are all the data structures that you need. So you need both leg chains, and then you need the trace data for each leg. Then you're going to move on and actually apply IK to the leg. So that's going to, now that the hip is close enough, it's going to repose the leg so that the foot can reach the target position on the ground. Now these leg IK solvers have two modes. They can either be in, here's the mode. So they can either be in normal locomotion, which means they're going to IK onto the trace point on the ground or a little bit above it, depending on how where the foot is relative to the ground, or IK onto world target. So that's if you want to IK the foot manually onto a particular target in the world. So again, this is not a tutorial. This is just really high level overview. So one issue that you'll often run into with if you just naively apply IK to the legs is that you'll get a bad rotation on the knee. So these hip or knee correction nodes will correct the rotation of the knee in a way that it almost always looks really good. The way that that's done is by basically looking at the rotation of the knee relative to the direction of the foot and matching that in your corrected pose. Again, not a tutorial, not a technical video. Then you do your foot rotation. And then the last part is the arm stuff. So first, you have the arm torso adjustment. So what that does is it looks at what your targets are going to be for your hands, and then it adjusts and rotates the torso appropriately. And then you have your two like actually solving the arm IK. So the first node will bend the torso at the waist and twist it in order to reach, and then these will actually repose the arms. So that's just a really quick overview of how that system works. Anyway, other stuff you may be interested in, the system is quite fast. It runs in, on my wimpy laptop, it runs in like under 150 microseconds per character, and that's in editor. It could be made a little bit faster. Right now the most expensive part is actually the traces, which there's kind of no way to get around. But that's why I paid so much attention to making sure that data can be shared in the anim node, anim graph. So if you guys are curious about this, I hope you'll give it a shot. It's distributed as an Unreal plugin, and there are instructions on the GitHub page for how to install it. And if you like it, or if you think there are things that you could change, or I could change, or you run into issues with it, which this is very much alpha quality software, and you probably will, shoot me an email, put an issue on the GitHub. I would love to hear from you. All right, thank you.